Let me ask you a strange question. If you disappeared for 8 hours and then suddenly came back home, how many people in your life would react like you just returned from a year-long journey? Jumping with excitement, running in circles, looking at you like you are the most important being in the universe. For most of us, the answer is probably no one, except one species. Dogs. And the strange thing is, your brain might actually need that reaction more than you realize. 1. A 15,000-year friendship. The relationship between humans and dogs is one of the oldest partnerships in history. Long before cities, long before agriculture, long before modern civilization. Humans and wolves began forming an alliance. Some wolves stayed close to human camps, scavenging food scraps. But the ones that survived were not the strongest. They were the friendliest. Over thousands of years, those wolves slowly evolved into dogs. And during that time, something remarkable happened. Dogs didn't just adapt to living near humans. They adapted to understanding humans. They learned to read our gestures, our tone of voice, even our facial expressions. Today, dogs are one of the only animals on Earth that naturally look into human eyes for emotional information. And that behavior triggers something powerful inside the human brain. 2. The oxytocin loop. Let's begin with something fascinating that happens inside your brain when you look at your dog. Scientists discovered that when a dog and its owner make eye contact, both of their brains start producing a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is often referred to as the bonding hormone. It plays a crucial role in some of the most important human relationships between parents and children, romantic partners, and close friends. But here's the surprising part. Dogs are one of the very few animals capable of activating this system in humans without any training. When your dog looks at you with those soft, relaxed eyes, your brain interprets that gaze almost the same way it interprets the gaze of a loved one. Your nervous system registers safety, trust, connection, and this triggers a feedback loop. The more oxytocin your brain releases, the more affectionate you become toward your dog. And the more affection you show, the more your dog seeks eye contact, which produces even more oxytocin. Psychologists sometimes call this an oxytocin loop, a self-reinforcing cycle of bonding. In other words, your dog isn't just emotionally attached to you. Your brain has been biologically trained to become attached to your dog. Over thousands of years of evolution, dogs have essentially learned how to press one of the most powerful emotional buttons in the human brain. 3. The stress reset button. Now, let's talk about stress. Modern life constantly activates what psychologists call the fight-or-flight response. Emails, deadlines, social pressure, financial worries. Every day, your brain receives signals that something might be wrong. And when that happens, the body releases cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals are useful in short bursts, but when they stay elevated for long periods of time, they slowly wear down your mental and physical health. This is where dogs create a remarkable psychological effect. When you interact with a dog, petting them, playing with them, even simply sitting next to them, your nervous system begins shifting from fight or flight into something called rest and digest mode. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing becomes deeper. Your muscles relax. In neuroscience, this is associated with activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. You can think of it as the body's natural recovery mode, and dogs seem to trigger this response almost effortlessly. In fact, studies have shown that spending just a few minutes interacting with a friendly dog can significantly lower cortisol levels. That's why therapy dogs are often brought into hospitals, disaster zones, and even courtrooms. Because sometimes the human brain doesn't calm down through logic. It calms down through connection. and dogs provide that connection in a very simple, very immediate way. 4. The power of unconditional acceptance. But perhaps the most powerful psychological effect of dogs has nothing to do with hormones or stress. It has to do with acceptance. Human relationships are complex. People constantly evaluate each other. Success, status, appearance, achievement. We live in a world where it often feels like we have to earn approval. But dogs operate under a completely different system. Your dog doesn't care about your job title, your income, your social status. Your dog doesn't track your failures. It doesn't judge your bad days. In psychology, there is a concept called unconditional positive regard. It describes a type of acceptance where a person is valued simply for existing, not for what they achieve. This concept was originally developed by psychologist Carl Rogers as a foundation for healthy emotional development. And strangely enough, dogs offer something very close to this naturally. When you walk through the door, your dog reacts with the same excitement whether you just had the best day of your life or the worst. To your dog, your presence is enough. That kind of emotional consistency can be incredibly powerful for the human mind, because deep down, one of our most basic psychological needs is the feeling that we are accepted without having to perform. And dogs seem to understand that in the simplest way possible. They don't ask you to be impressive. They're just happy that you came home. 5. The need to be needed. There's another psychological reason people bond so deeply with dogs. Humans have a powerful internal drive known as the caregiving system. We are wired to care for something, to protect, to nurture, to take responsibility for another life. When you take care of a dog, this system becomes activated. You feed them, you guide them, you protect them, and in return, your brain experiences a sense of purpose. Psychologists sometimes describe this as the need to be needed. It's the feeling that your presence matters, that someone depends on you, and dogs express that dependence very clearly. To your dog, you are not just important, you are the center of its entire world. 6. Why dogs understand us so well. Dogs also have an extraordinary ability to read human emotions. They notice subtle changes in your voice. They watch your posture. They react to your facial expressions. If you're excited, your dog becomes energetic. If you're calm, your dog relaxes. If you're sad, many dogs quietly move closer and stay beside you. Researchers believe this emotional sensitivity developed during thousands of years living alongside humans. Dogs that understood human emotions were more likely to survive. So, over generations, dogs became incredibly skilled at reading us. In many ways, your dog becomes an emotional mirror. Not judging, not analyzing, just responding. So when people say they love dogs, they're not just talking about animals. They're talking about a relationship that activates some of the deepest systems in the human brain. Connection, comfort, purpose, belonging. Your dog doesn't measure your worth through success or failure. All it knows is this: you came home, and that's enough reason to celebrate. I'm Garlic Man. If you have a dog waiting for you at home, tell me their name in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the psychology behind everyday life, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.